Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in here to the Powercat Postgame Podcast. I am Coach Carmody, along with me, former Kansas State offensive lineman, Big B, Brien Hanley. K-State finds a way to get the job done in Stillwater. They beat the Cowboys for the first time in Stillwater since 2017. Final score, 14-6. Brien, we were just talking before we started. This was not pretty, and that's putting it very nicely. I'm curious your main takeaways from the game. Obviously, you know, a win is a win, but not really when you're playing Oklahoma State. At least that's my opinion. What was your immediate reaction after that debacle of a football game we just watched?
First off, it was an awful football game. It was such a bad football game that, you know, I have YouTube TV and I just kept the quad view on the entire time because I'm like, I need to watch something good. This is god-awful football. Kansas State, uninspired. It was like the press conference on Monday. They played exactly like that was. Like, we don't care. We've cashed it in. That's exactly what it looked like. That's literally what it looked like. And they just have a better team than Oklahoma State. Like, if they play this way against Utah, Utah will beat them 50-3. Yeah. I mean, they will just get flat out embarrassed. So I don't know. This was we thought Army was bad. This is right up there with it, Cole. It really is. It really is.
Well, here's the difference, right? Like, I think Oklahoma State is the worst team on K-State's schedule. Like, now that we've seen all these games, like, North Dakota would beat Oklahoma State. Like, there's no doubt in my mind if those two teams played tomorrow, North Dakota would win. Army would beat Oklahoma State. And that's not because those teams are good. It's just, unfortunately for the Cowboys, it's really bad in Stillwater right now, which I am going to touch on that a little bit later in the show. But you're right. Like, I got bad news for K-State, right? Like, the bad news is if you don't want to play a bowl game, because at times it looked like, you're right, it looked like they had just kind of gone through the motions and, you know, thought, okay, well, we're just going to go do this, and if we lose, it sucks. Now, I don't think that's what that fire inside the locker room is. I just think that maybe it was oh crap, here we go again kind of moment. And credit to the defense, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if this team is checked out, they might luck into a win against Colorado too, because I don't think Colorado is that much worse than Oklahoma State, and we'll talk about that later, obviously. But you know, I do want to, as much of a horrible game offensively as it really was, Brian, I do want to touch on the defense, because I think we have to give some flowers to those guys. I mean, playing without Austin Romaine, it could have been very easy to pack it in. And let's not act like it was a perfect day from the defense. They gave up 373 yards. They gave up 226 through the air, 147 on the ground. I actually thought that was pretty good, but it was 5 yards a rush. And without Austin Romaine, those numbers could have been even worse if it wasn't for the turnovers. And how much of that was Oklahoma State and how much of that was K-State, I don't know. But I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt when it mattered most, because when the defense had to make a play, when you were going to lose this game, and if the defense didn't make a play, the defense did step up and make some plays.
I mean, they did. They made a couple of plays, but it's hard to try to sugarcoat this one, Cole, because it was bad. I mean, you look at Oklahoma State, they were dead last in offense coming into this game at 292 yards. It's just what you said. Their rushing yardage, they averaged 126 a game. I mean, and they had 147. I mean, I guess we made plays to win the game at the end, if that's, you know, and if that's what we're looking for. I mean, to me, that's the only bright spot, is that we actually won. I just be honest. I can't just sit here and just say there's good things to look at. The K-State made a few plays. There was a few guys that looked good. This is a game Kansas State should have won 45-3. I just flat out, Oklahoma State is not a good football team. They were put together. They have a bunch of guys that just play hard, but this is an FCS level, maybe even Division II level football team. That's literally what they are. And I can speak on it because I cover the entire Big 12 and I see them every single week. That's what the level of of players that they have on this football team. It was disgusting to me. But you're right. There were a few guys that did play well. There were a few guys that did some good things, but not enough. Not near enough. I know we'll get into it, but I'm sorry. I know that people label me as the negative guy, but I just didn't see anything positive. I really didn't, Cole. I know we made a few plays, but we should have made the plays. We should have done those things. There was just so much more that we should have done that we just didn't.
Yeah, I agree. And, in a vacuum, right? Like you look at it, you say K-State gives up 6 points to Oklahoma State. I mean, obviously, I think every single one of us would have signed up for that, right?
Correct.
If K-State goes out and they score, hell, if they score 28, if they win this game 28-6, if they make a field goal, they win 17-6, and then instead of a holding penalty on the last drive, they go down and they win this game 24-6. I think we're having at least a little bit of a different conversation because the defense, only gave up 6 points. They really, really, really kind of overshadowed just how bad the offense was. And that's kind of where I want to really start with. Like, I don't honestly, I get that not having Jace Brown. He went out of the game. They said he was in a sling, so we'll see where that goes. I mean, I wouldn't imagine he's going to be able to play next week, which obviously that's a big loss. And so you're down 2 of your 3 best wide receivers. I get it. It happens. Other teams deal with injuries too. Not exactly what you want to have happen at this stage in the season, but injuries are part of the game. But still, that's no excuse. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the offensive line, so I'm going to bring it up before you do. I don't understand how we can see an offensive line look pretty good some weeks and then look absolutely horrendous against an Oklahoma State defense that's one of, if not the worst in the country. It just blows my mind. And so it's not even like they can't do it. I think that's what's the most frustrating part, is because we've seen them do it. But for whatever reason, they were beyond bad today. They were beyond bad.
Yeah, the offensive line was atrocious. Let's just call it what it was. And first of all, I've said it constantly all year. The shuffling of offensive linemen could be one of the more idiotic things that I've seen anybody do. Nobody does that. You play the best 5 guys and you figure it out and you move on. Playing 7, 8 guys on an offensive line week to week, it could literally be, and in the excuses of, well, guys are tired. I've never, ever, ever heard anybody say that about offensive line and why you have to keep rotating them. Or, I mean, and maybe that's the excuse. We have to keep rotating them because nobody's any good. I think that's probably the best thing to say.
That's the real
and the head
answer.
coach just can't say that. And
Yes.
I get it. We got to just rotate some guys because none of these guys are any good. That's the problem. They were atrocious today. I just don't understand it, Cole. And here's the thing. Oklahoma State is dead last in defense. 443 yards a game. Their rushing defense, horrific. 169 yards. We had 107 yards rushing. 107 yards rushing against Oklahoma State. That in itself is enough to say, with the offensive coordinator, first of all, let me backtrack there. Matt Wells was, I know we say that he's done some things that questionable. He was awful. Again, just awful. I just don't understand it. This shouldn't have been, I mean, we come out of the game, we throw the ball 3 straight times against a defense that's that bad, against a defensive line that's that bad. We're going to come out throwing the football. I didn't understand any of it. I want to say something positive. I really do. I just don't know where to start. I mean, we got 5 turnovers. We did that, but getting back to the O-line, I don't want to go on a tangent. The O-line was just bad today. They couldn't block. They couldn't open up any holes. They just couldn't do those type of things that are required. And Oklahoma State's awful. Like they're not a good football team, and we couldn't do anything, Cole. And it's so disheartening.
I'm gonna touch on the offensive line here, and I don't want this to sound like I'm calling out the guys. I'm just gonna be stating some facts here.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of this has to do with construction of the offensive line, right? When your offensive line coach takes a job that late in the recruiting cycle, it makes it very difficult for you to actually go out and bring in the guys in the transfer portal who you want. They go out and they bring in Terrence Enos, they bring in JB Nelson. Those guys have been bad. I mean, let's just call it how it is. They've been really bad. Well, they had to play a lot today. Obviously, they're dealing with some injuries. Once again, everybody else is. But they had to play a lot today. There was a time, Big B, when Terrence Enos was at right tackle, JB Nelson was at right guard, Sam Hecht, who's been pretty good, was at center, Taylor Portier was at left guard, and John Pastore was at left tackle. That is one, if you count TP2, but probably one guy who should be playing on that offensive line. Pastore's had his moments, but you want to talk about rotating in? Guess what? That's a guy who you can bring, who should be able to come in and rotate. He shouldn't have to be your left tackle, but there is one guy in the center. He's the only one who really should play every single snap. And that's what K-State had. And I'm not making excuses, but I am just going to state that that's the facts. The thing about all that, too, is 3 of those guys who I just mentioned are gone next year. They're seniors. They're not coming back. They probably won't play another down of football. No offense to them. They probably won't play another down of football. So what you're looking at for the future is going to be a completely new offensive line. And honestly, that's a good thing, because if you watch this game today, it did not take a football expert to notice, Big B, they just can't move. Like that's what it comes down to. Sure, they're going to be able to chest bump the guy who's lined up across from them. But when they have to get down the field and make a block in space, it's just it doesn't happen. And that's not something that you can coach. You just can't.
No, the guys can't get to the second level because they literally just can't get there. They're not quick enough. They're not athletic enough. And that's the thing that's been so disheartening is for decades, Kansas State has had an offensive line that could do those things. Get up and down the field, run inside, outside zone, get up to the second level. There's a crazy comment down here saying there were multiple holes. Jackson didn't read them. That whoever that is must be related to an offensive lineman, because the offensive line was horrendous. There was nowhere to run. Joe Jackson wasn't doing anything wrong. They just didn't have anywhere to run. It was just a bad performance. And it's like you said, Cole, the construction was bad, number one, but you bring in an offensive line coach so late, which, again, you had to bring in somebody so late because the offensive line coach took another job. That's not anybody's fault. My problem with that is you didn't go look for a new one, is that you just decided we'll do the easy thing and just promote from within versus saying, no, hold on, let's take a step back. Let's see if we can go find the best guy for this program. Kansas State didn't do that. And when you don't do that in a position of this kind of importance, these are kind of things that happen. It's like you constructed it bad, and then you don't have the best coach out there for it. And we're starting to see those results.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I agree. And the coaching, I think, as a whole, as it relates to this game, was horrible. As the recruiting guy, Big B, I will say, obviously we don't know how recruiting classes pan out until they actually get on campus. We can think a kid's going to be pretty good. We won't know until they put the pads on. But by the numbers, Brien LePack, as the offensive line coach, he is bringing in the best group out of any of these position coaches. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see if these guys are even on the staff and these kids even sign. Wait till the ink is dry, and even then, sometimes it doesn't matter. But as it relates to Saturday, I mean, I look at how this game unfolded, and you mentioned it, to come out the gate, you throw 3 passes, and then from there, you're just stagnant the whole entire time. We had Antonio Martin coming into the game, who has had 2 carries on the season. I get that Joe Jackson hasn't been the most dependable guy, but you look at his numbers, Big B, he got 5 yards a carry, 14 for 69. That's really not bad at all. I mean, he had that one long run when Oklahoma State had 12 guys on the field and they still gave up a touchdown. That should be what it looks like. K-State should have came out with 3 tight ends and said, we are better than you. Stop us. And they didn't do that. For whatever reason, they didn't do that. And it really set a tone that, okay, we're just going to play with our food and let Oklahoma State hang around the entire game. And that's what happened.
That's literally what happened. And it was just uninspiring football. That's the whole thing. It was just uninspiring from the very beginning, and you let a team that you should have blown out, hang around, and then you had to hang on at the end to be able to win the game. I don't know. I don't know. Look, I mean, and here's the thing that's really crazy. If you'd have told me before this game started that Kansas State would have held Oklahoma State to 6 points and would have gotten 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
You would have thought Kansas State might have scored 60 points.
Yeah.
Instead, 14. It's disheartening, man. It's disheartening. The thing about it, though, is the season's still not over. We have got to get better. And the body language, we talked about it on Monday, Cole. The body language from everybody involved starting on Monday was, well, we didn't do a whole lot here, and it was just so uninspiring, and that just trickled on down to Saturday, and that's the kind of performance we got. Even if you have to fake it until you make it, at least act like you want to continue playing football and coaching football. Just do that, and maybe that'll trickle down into better practices and a better performance on game day, because there's still 2 games left. Fans deserve better. They deserve better. They should deserve better from themselves than what they put out there. They should be embarrassed. They really should, Cole.
It's easier to learn from a win than it is a loss. And K-State too many times this season has had to learn from a loss. I mean, I do believe that one of the strong points of Chris Kleman's teams are culture. Like, there's no denying that when they were 1-3, everybody thought that it'd be a miracle for them to get 5 wins. Take the preseason expectations alone. It is a 1-game season. Everybody who has talked about K-State football agrees. No matter what happens the rest of the season, this is a colossal failure. Chris Kleman said, and Joe Kleinerman said, this is not where we want to be. They acknowledge this is a failure of a season. But every single week, things change. And I'm not telling you to look at the bright side of things, but what I am telling you is the conversations we had, and I say you, I'm talking to the fans. The conversations we had when K-State was 1-3, Big B, we sat there after the Arizona game. It was midnight, and we said, this is rock bottom, and they can either choose to fight or they can choose to lay down. And they chose to fight. The team I saw today looked more like the team that played at Arizona for whatever reason. I have no idea why. That's what makes this so frustrating, is I have no idea why. I thought when they played Arizona, maybe they're just not that good of a football team. But then they turn around and they wax TCU. Then they turn around. They should have beat Baylor. They destroy KU. They hang with Texas Tech for a good majority of the game. And you're thinking, okay, this team, they might be closer to what we thought they were before the season. And then they come out today and lay an egg. And that's why this is so disheartening, because you've seen them play better. It's not like, your parents used to say, Big B, I don't know if they did this to you, but I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I feel like that's kind of where I am with K-State right now. I'm just very disappointed with how they played today.
Well, and being disappointed in me is worse than being mad at me.
Exactly.
Because you get over being mad at me.
Exactly.
Being disappointed means I've done something that's actually hurt you versus something that just made you upset for a quick second, blah, blah, blah. And that's the problem, is that it's disappointing, because you're right, Cole. You thought that they had turned the corner. You thought that, you know what, maybe this is more of what we should have been. And part of it was they let that game against Baylor go, and we saw what happened. But then they fought back. They kept fighting, and like you said, they blew the doors off of Tech. They blew the doors off of KU. They hung around with Texas Tech. They're not as good as Tech. And I think they let that, and maybe everybody let that game take the wind out of their sails. And it didn't have to be that,
right.
And they damn near let Tech beat them twice, because it's like, what are we doing? Everybody wants to win every game, but you fought against a top 5. I mean, Tech should be a top 5 team in the country, top 10 team in the country. You fought them. Okay, they beat you, but we still got some games to play here. Let's continue and play this thing out and see how good we can be. And they took 2 steps back today, Cole, because this is not a team that looked like they even wanted to be there.
Yeah,
that's my problem. They didn't even look like they cared. They didn't look like a team that wanted to be in Stillwater and play in this football game. It just looked like a team that we got 3 games left. This is one of them. we're better than they are, and we're just going to walk out here and beat them. And that is not what happened. I said it all week. We'd know by the second quarter whether this team was ready to play or not, or it was going to be a dogfight. And sure enough, we knew.
I have no idea where this team goes. And I understand people are frustrated. I'm going to bring this up here right now. From Joshua, you guys feel Kleman is done. I'm going to address this because I know that this is out there. Guys, Chris Kleman is not going anywhere. Like, he's not getting fired. Okay? That's not going to happen. So take that and throw it away. For people who say he's going to get fired, take that and remove it from your mind because it's not going to happen. Will he retire? From what we're hearing, no. He's not going anywhere. Okay? K-State is facing one of the worst positions you can be in college football right now. Do you want to fire the guy who has really kept your program relevant after Bill Snyder and risk bringing in another coach and going back to irrelevancy? Or do you want to keep him and hope he can turn it around? Well, there's a lot of fans who are saying that he needs to be fired. Big B, I'm telling you, he's not going to be fired. And I saw a coach today who was pissed off. Let's just call it how it is. He was pissed off. He told one of his guys to wake the F up. I haven't seen Chris Kleman say that in a really long time. If I know anything about him, he is going to do his best to get this corrected. Now in this new day of college football, will that message resonate in the locker room for the rest of the season? I don't know. But Chris Kleman is not done. He is not given up on this season by any means, at least not the coach that I saw today on the sidelines.
I mean, I agree with the part about he's not getting fired, and he's not going to get fired. And whether he retires or not, I don't know. I don't think he's going to. But the thing about it is he can be as pissed off on the sideline as he wants to be. How about you show that same fire in the press conference on Monday, and maybe that trickles down to your football team that hey, we still got games to go win. You know, he didn't do that. You know, I mean, bringing up Bill Snyder, this would never happen under a Bill Snyder football team where he portrayed himself as not being interested, and then all of a sudden, this is how you play. Now, don't get me wrong, K-State didn't play great every time Bill Snyder. I think that's kind of the mythical thing that everybody believes they played hard, fast, and the best that they could possibly play every single game. That's not true. But you never saw it in the press. And right. That's where my problem lies. But as far as Kleman going away, I don't think he's not getting fired. And he shouldn't. He shouldn't get fired. But what I will say is this: there need to be wholesale changes made. And that's the thing. It's like, first of all, nobody ever wants to just see somebody lose their job. I think most people have some humanity about them, Cole. Most people. We know how the internet can be. Having said that, you got to make changes. You can't just stay and bring back everybody on your coaching staff and think, well, we're just going to try this thing again. No, you're not. You need to make some changes because what you did this year, it didn't work. And what you thought was going to work, it didn't work. You need to go make the proper changes to your staff, whether it's a new offensive coordinator, new receivers coach, new whatever. And I'm just throwing examples out there. Yeah. I know people are going to jump on the OC because I'm going to jump on the OC. But all these other things, you got to go out there and make some changes that are going to help this football team. Bring in some new, fresh guys with fresh ideas and fresh recruiting tactics that are going to make Kansas State better. But if we just do the status quo, then this is what we're going to get. It's the old saying is the definition of insanity is continually to do the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. Well, I'm sorry. If this coaching staff comes back intact the same way, it's not going to get any better. It's not.
Agreed. And I don't think that's going to happen. You know, I whenever Chris Kleman has had to make changes, he has. And I know there's folks out there who will say, oh, you know, he never fires anybody. He just hires his friends, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get that. He has promoted from within. We talked about it. Big B, you brought it up. Should they have gone out and looked for other options? Absolutely. And guess what? This is what happens when you don't, right? Mm-hmm. This is what happens when you don't. And if Kleman is a good coach, like I think you and I both believe he can still be a good coach at this level, he sees that. Let's not pretend like he's blind to this. Chris Kleman does not like losing. No one likes losing. But he's not blind to this. He knows, okay, something's got to change, because if he does continue to go 6-6, he might not get fired, Brien, but he won't have that same fire in him, and then he'll step away. He doesn't want to go 6-6. He wants to be at the top of this conference. And for people who say he just hires his friends, well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out this offseason what it really, really looks like. And if he decides to keep things pat, then expect the same results. Like, expect the same results. There's no doubt that K-State is in a very tough position, and we'll talk more about this in the offseason throughout as we go, but they're not the way of college football now versus 365 days ago is completely different. It changes, it seems like, every week, and it's not an excuse because everybody has to change with the times. We're going to find out if Chris Kleman's going to be able to do that. I believe he can. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. But you talk about showing fire. I haven't obviously been able to watch the post-game press conference. I would imagine that'll be up on YouTube by the time you're done watching this. I have a strange feeling he's not going to be a very happy man. And I think that there is going to be this week of practice for K-State might be the toughest that they've had all year.
Good. It needs to be. Let them have some tough practices, man. It's what they need to be. And he needs to be pissed off and start with himself, which we know Coach Kleman, he's that guy. He's a stand-up guy. I didn't get him prepared to play. You hear him say that all the time. I didn't do a good enough job. We didn't do a good enough job as coaches. All of that is true. But again, this is a program. Today was a program issue where nobody did what they were supposed to do. Coaches didn't prepare good enough. Players didn't play hard enough, didn't play well enough. And coaches didn't put them in proper positions to make enough plays. It was just a colossal effort. But the thing about it is, Cole, is we're talking all this negativity. They did win. That's the thing. They did win the game. Yep. And that's the only positive that I have. But sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's okay. That to have the only positive is, hey, we won the game. We saw one of those times earlier this year against North Dakota. The only positive was we won the game.
Yep.
And, it's what we got. It's what we can live with until the next time that they go out there. I would suspect we get a much better outing, a much better performance the next time K-State steps out there. But I just thought this was a game that everybody just sleptwalked through and just thought, hey, we'll show up. We'll do enough. It'll be enough early, blow them out, and just get out of here with the win and get back home. And it just didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, I mean, breaking news, I guess, if you're watching this live, our own Ryan Gilbert just tweeted this out. Jace Brown's injury doesn't look good. Chris Kleman said he's potentially out for the season. He'll know more on Monday. So that's obviously not good for K-State moving forward. I thought that Jace had a pretty big impact. Obviously, got a touchdown in this game. It's going to be up to some of the younger guys to step up. Lincoln Cure played a lot in this game. I don't know really what his role is going to be for the next two games with J.B. Bradley and Jace Brown out. They're going to have to rely on him probably a little bit more to be a pass catcher. Big B, I want to kind of take a step back now and really look and see where this team goes from here, because, we can look at this game and we can talk about it. Defensively, Asa Newsom, I thought, did a pretty good job stepping in for Austin Romaine. I thought Desmond Purnell sliding over to Mike did a pretty good job for the most part. I could not believe that, by the way, the defensive delay a game. I haven't seen that called all year. What are we doing? What are we doing? I haven't seen that all year. Seriously haven't seen that all year. But, I thought Newsom did a pretty good job. Daniel Cobbs is another one of those guys who came in and had an interception, had a few good tackles. There were some good things defensively. But where does K-State go from here, right? You win a game 14-6. We've been talking about it. Now the next question is, what is next?
Well, they're playing one of the better teams in the country next week. Whether people know that or understand that or not, Utah is very good, and Utah is very physical. So physicality has got to be, which we didn't see a whole lot of today from K-State, is going to have to be something that we're going to have to see next week. So what I would say, where we go from here, we got to be a more physical football team. We got to be, especially up front, because their defense is physical. Their front seven gets after you. And it's troublesome, but somehow, some way, Matt Wells is going to have to put a plan together and be able to run the football against Utah. The offensive line is going to have to play much better than what they played today. I don't care what anybody wants to say or tweet out. The offensive line was awful. I mean, everybody, even if you don't understand offensive line play, which I assume most people don't because they didn't play it, they just look and see what they see on TV. Well, what you looked and saw on TV was right. It just wasn't good. So either way, they're going to have to find a way to just get better and be a physical football team. I still believe that's the way for K-State to win, is to run in between the tackles because, like you mentioned, they can't get outside because the guys can't get out there to block anybody. So you got to be able to be physical, protect, and take your shots downfield. As far as defense, continue to be a physical football team. That's what's next. That's what they need to try to lean in on and be that team. You know, if Jace Brown is not going to play, which it doesn't sound like he's going to play the rest of the year, then you're not going to be able to necessarily get those big, huge, explosive plays that you're used to. So lean into 3.5, 4 yards a carry. Lean into that. There's nothing wrong with 3.5, 4 yards a carry. You know, some people want to think that 4 yards is a bad thing. It's not. Now, it's a bad thing when we run a quarterback sweep on 3rd and 9. Right. You know, that's a bad thing. I mean, we can talk about that all we want, you know, but, you know, we just have to be a more physical football team, Cole. That's where K-State needs to go. They need to try to lean into that. And if they can do that, then they got a chance the rest of the year.
You know, you look at the numbers from today, and 3.6 yards a carry isn't very good, but Avery Johnson ran the ball 9 times for 26 yards. Now, there was some sack yardage that was in there, so I think the rushing yardage actually is going to look a little bit better when you look at that, when you look at the net. But, you know, like we said, Joe Jackson, 14 for 69, Antonio Martin, 4 for 12, running into your own tight end, by the way. That's never advisable. So where the hole is, that's where you want to run. Running into your own guy usually doesn't end pretty well. But, I mean, I just, like, you're right. Against this team, you expected to see some more explosive runs. I think that's where you and I are on the same page. You expected to see some more explosive runs, and you didn't. But if you want 3 yards, 4 yards in a cloud of dust, Joe Jackson can get you that. He can get you that because he's really good. The one thing about Joe is he's good about sticking his foot in the ground and getting vertical. That's what he's good at. What Avery Johnson lacks in that running the football, Joe Jackson is good about putting his foot in the ground and going north and south. I really wouldn't be opposed to seeing a I formation, a power I formation, take it back to the, you know, to the Stone Ages of football when you played, Brien, where it's literally you're in the I formation and you're running the football against Utah and really Colorado. If you make a bowl game as well, you're going to have to do that without your best playmaker on the outside. I want to see this team kind of try and take on that an old-fashioned identity of, you know what, we might not have the best players, but we're going to out-physical you, because we've seen them do that this year. They didn't do that today. I think going forward, that for the offense anyway, that needs to be priority number one.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Got to be priority number one. And just, again, try to manipulate and find ways to move the football positive, and not try to, like, we tried a trick play today. And it was one of the worst blocked trick plays that I think I've ever seen in my life.
Well, how about unblocked? Unblocked.
Yeah, I should say unblocked.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I just didn't understand. We're going to fake one way, reverse pivot, and pitch it back to the original place that we faked to. So all the guys that were over there anyway. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense, but whatever. And so it just, I don't know. Some of the stuff that we just have to be better. We got to be able to find a way to move the football on offense. Today was bad. Oklahoma State's defense is I think it's the worst in the country. It's definitely the worst in Power 4 football. There's no doubt. It's the worst in Power 4 football, and we couldn't move the ball enough or stick with it enough. And that's the thing. Just, okay, Joe John, just keep running them. 14 carries. What did he have against TCU? 27 carries?
Yeah.
Why didn't he have 27 carries today?
Yeah.
Like, what was going on? I don't know, Cole. It was confusing to me. It's like, man, just keep running it. Just keep running. Get 4 yards. Get 5 yards. It's okay. We don't have to say, and maybe coaches got frustrated thinking we should be blowing this team out. We should be blowing them out. We got to go down the field. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
If the game would have ended 28-0 and we scored one touchdown every quarter, everybody would have been fine.
Yep.
Just do that. Just do that. But no, we didn't. But we got to find a way. We got to find a way. Defense got to be better today. Don't let this mislead you. I know technically it was 5 turnovers, but it was really 4 because one came at the end of the half on a Hail Mary. But 4 turnovers help you. Teams aren't going to give you 4 turnovers every week. You got to be able to stop people. K-State didn't do a good job of that today.
No, they didn't. And, it's just so weird, right? Because we've seen them play like this, and then we've seen them play really well. And so there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? You can look at this and say, oh, this team is cooked, as pretty much, majority of people who are in the chat are saying. There was a text in here from Brandon. 7 family group chats, and nobody texted today. It's usually fun, but everyone's burnt and tuned out. You know what? I get it, right? Like, this has not been a fun season of football. Like, it happens, and people are upset. They have a right to be mad, but this team still has an opportunity to play postseason football. And there's been some people in here poo-pooing the idea of a bowl game. That's fine, right? Like, guys are going to hit the portal. I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic as a lot of you fans maybe think it's going to be. But there will be guys who hit the portal. And why play a bowl game? It's so you know what you have next year, right? Those guys who you're like, I don't know. Think about last year, Brien. We had no idea what K-State was going to have at cornerback. Jacob Parrish goes to the NFL, and here comes this little number 25, Zayshawn Rich, pop up on the scene and has asserted himself as being a starting cornerback for this team. Has he had his ups and downs? No doubt, but he's been a solid contributor. That's why you play a bowl game, because without that bowl game, who knows? And you have to find a way to get at least one more win, because those practices and really that game is so valuable for some of your younger players.
I mean, it's invaluable, to be honest with you. Now, things are obviously different than what they were when I played. Hell, they're different than what they were 5 years ago. So bowl games don't mean as much nationally, and even fans. A lot of fans are even jaded by bowl games. They don't count. They don't matter. I'm like, but they do matter for your football program. If nothing else, it's money. If there's no other thing that you can think of positive, your football program gets money by going to a bowl game. And whether it's a $1 or it's $1 million, they get money to go to a bowl game. So there's that. But it's invaluable practice. It's invaluable sometimes exposure. Just being on TV when there's no other football on, and people, this country, we're starved for football. You're the only football game on? Okay, I'll watch. I'll tune in, and maybe there's a kid out there that hadn't heard of Kansas State or hadn't seen Kansas State this year. That's a sophomore in high school. He gets intrigued. I don't know. That's a good football player. All I know is that bowl games are still valuable. Are they even remotely as close as making the college football playoff? Absolutely not. I'm not here to even try to convince anybody of that, because you're just lying to people if you say that. But they are valuable to a program for the reasons I mentioned. If for nothing else, for those reasons, is that it's good for recruiting, it's good for your current team and guys that are coming back, and it's good for the wallet. All those things are good for your program.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to put up here from a comment. I finally tuned, man. You're driving me crazy with these comments. Thank you for watching, but they will throw the game to avoid a bowl. That's all I'm going to say. I disagree.
I guess my question would be, why would you throw a game to avoid? Like, why would you want to avoid a bowl game? Because here's the one thing that I know. Coaches are incentivized by going to a bowl game. So you think the coaches are going to say, I don't want this extra money that I get from going to a bowl game. I can't use that. No, they're not going to do that. So you think the school is like, you know what? They're going to give us $750,000 for going to this bowl game. Nah. Hey, Coach Kleman, don't do it. We don't want that money. Don't do it. Don't do it. We don't want to go. You think the players who all the stuff that they get from going to a bowl game. Now, some of them aren't going to go for whatever reasons, but the ones that do want to, you think they're going to, hey, man, I know we get these free gifts, but nah, I don't want those. I can't use that stuff. I don't want to do that. Come on, man. I get we're frustrated and we're mad. We also have to live in reality.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. Fans are going to fan. What do you always say? Fan is short for fanatic. And
Exactly.
That's how it is. You know what? That's all right, though. And as we kind of put a bow on this, Big B, I think overall, as it relates to this game today, you're right. There's definitely more negatives than positives, but we cannot, take for granted the fact that it is a win. And if we're sitting here and K-State loses 14-6, the conversation is a lot different, right? Let's just be real. The conversation is a lot different if they lose 14-6. They didn't make enough plays to inspire very much confidence. But the bottom line is they made enough plays to win. I'm a teacher, and sometimes you have those kids who will literally do the bare minimum to pass. Well, K-State today, they did the bare minimum to pass. They did pass, and that's how they ended up with the 14-6 win over the Cowboys. So, there's a lot that they can work on. I'm not ready to sit here and say that they're going to lose by 75 points to Utah. The season's over. They're going to throw a bowl game. I'm not ready to say that because I've seen this team bounce back and at least compete with some of the better teams, if not beat. I think TCU might have a chance tonight at BYU. We're going to see how that game unfolds, but they've had a chance to at least compete with the middle to upper half of this conference. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel just yet, but Big B, give me your final thoughts as we wrap up the show.
No, I'm not ready to throw the towel in just yet at all. Here's the thing. Think about how K-State played for, I'd say, 2.5 quarters against Texas Tech. That was without Chase Brown doing anything other than fumbling the football. He didn't do anything in that football game. So think about how K-State competed in that football game. They can do that with Utah. And Utah is not as good as Texas Tech, and not even remotely as good as Texas Tech. So the season isn't over, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. It's just not. Now, is it the season that we wanted? No. But K-State can go there and win. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. By any means, is it going to be easy? But if they play like that, and again, Chase Brown's not playing, what did you get from him against Texas Tech? Like what? And I'm being serious. Like, what did you get from him? You got nothing from him in that football game, but turnovers. You got nothing. So K-State can compete. You just got to go up there with a good mindset, go up there with a plan, a real plan, not BS, with a real plan. Go play physical, go play inspired, and then just let it all hang out and see what happens. But there's an opportunity to win the game. So don't count yourself out just yet. Is it tough? Yes. Is it doable? Yes.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, we appreciate everybody so much for tuning in and helping us sort through our emotions. Hopefully we helped you sort through some of your emotions too. Appreciate the comment section. Sometimes you bring some great conversation starters for us. So anytime we go live, we always love when people drop those comments. So really appreciate everybody so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your football Saturday. We will talk to you next time. You've been listening to the GoPowercat Postgame Podcast. I'm Cole. That's Big B. We'll talk to you next time.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.